manager.
Oh, that's good. We're going to open this up to public comment. I know there's quite a group here that wishes to speak on the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course. And how many people are going to want to speak on that? Could I have a show of hands, please?
6.
Are all of you in favor of it, or is there anybody here opposed on it? Okay.
Actually, my statement will be broader, but will include Tuscan.
Okay. And do I have a card for you, sir?
Yes, you do.
And your name is?
McLaughlin.
Okay. Any chance that the Tuscan Ridge people can get a spokesman and narrow down the speakers? Otherwise, we're going to give you a couple of minutes apiece here in order to get through this. No chance, huh?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mo, would you come forward so we can make a request real quickly?
My name is Mo West, and I'm the owner, along with my son Mark, of the property. And we do have a number of people in the audience who have come over in support of the project. They have signed to speak, some of which you have heard before, and some of them I don't know whether they want to speak or not. But if we could perhaps take some order that would be a little bit better so that you don't get a lot of repetitious items. And that is maybe our engineer, myself, and our manager would probably answer most all the questions, and then others, if they wanted to speak, could speak after that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. West. You want to take your turn right now?
And may I have a pen, Dan? Oh, it's on the board. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if you want to remain consistent with the agenda, but to remain consistent with the agenda, we would start with study area 5 and work through it. That's the order in which the materials are provided for you.
Thank you.
So that's what we might want to do.
Okay, Mo, you're already signed in, but you've been...
Sit down.
Can I finish?
Finish signing in. We'll go to study area 5 first. Is there anybody here who would like to speak on study area 5? Okay, go ahead and come forward.
Okay, good morning. My name is Chuck Benedict. I presently live in the town of Paradise, but for 17 years I lived in the Magalia area. I was water chairman for the Upper Ridge Council for 12 of those years up there, and had many occasions to look at properties on the east side of the Skyway. It's known as the Fur Haven and Del Oro area. Many times I would go over there as a member of a team to inspect septic systems over there that required variance for a development of a new home. This team included me, the Paradise Irrigation District Manager, and a county environmental health employee. We had to look at those areas because it was in an ordinance I'm sure you're familiar with, which was the Watershed Protection Zone Ordinance. Those areas, some of them, we wouldn't allow the variance because many times they asked for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a large garage, ending up with not enough room for leach lines that could do a quality job of keeping any wastewater out of Paradise Lake or Magalia Reservoir. Now that area over there, I My wife and I personally drove Tim Snelling and Dan and Chuck through that area. It's an area that has no paved roads. They're all dirt or gravel roads. Most of the homes over there are on quarter-acre lots. Some of them have been there for over 30 years with septic systems. I'm not sure whether they've ever been inspected or serviced. Now these areas, well, the whole ridge area, in fact, has never been under any kind of a wastewater management system that I'm aware of. The town of Paradise is population. We are in the McGay area is almost as large as the town of Paradise. Presently, there's no septic system inspection program in the Paradise Pines areas. That water that's in Paradise Lake and McGay Reservoir is our drinking water, and it's the only surface water in that area. Before any consideration is given to further development up there, I think the infrastructure, not only for water is another serious problem. Del Oro has just come out with strict conservation methods for the Upper Ridge area. If you break those conservation methods that they've called out, you will be fined. And I expect that area will be on water rationing before the end of the year. This summer, late this summer, they'll have no water. So they have to get their water from PID, which is also low this year. And he's asking for his ratepayers to conserve water. So the area up there is, again, in a serious water problem. I'm asking that right now in the plan studies for Area 5, they're asking for 400 new homes in that area in the next 20 years. I think that is something that has to be considered very carefully with the infrastructure problems that are present in that area. Not only transportation, wastewater, water, fire, and police. So please give these considerations in your thought process. Thank you.
Chuck, do you have any input to how they address septic system usage, delineation?
I do not. I do not any longer. I've lived in Paradise now 3 years, so I'm away from that up there.
You know, when I first moved to Paradise some 14 years ago, I was really torn from the way they address septic system capacity by number of births.
Yes.
Because I'm a real thing with the birth rate. I come out there and I'd see where they wouldn't approve a 3-bedroom, 2-bath septic system for a home that was only 1,200 square feet. But I personally been to homes that were 2,000 plus square feet.
Yes.
With only 1 bedroom. There were only 1 bedroom because that's all they were given in terms of septic system. So I thought that was really, silly. I thought that the number of gallons per day for use would be a way to gauge the size of the septic system and not the size of the septic, not how many bedrooms in the house.
Well,
After all, you can't regulate who is going to live in it.
no.
But you can have control as to how much water usage is going to take place.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been waiting to say this for many years.
Yeah.
And I think that they're gauging it, where they wrong.
Well, that's the state standard, I believe. That's the way it's handled for most of the areas.
Yeah, that's a state thing.
Yes.
I think it's not precedent.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Anybody else wish to speak on Area 5? Not you. Oh, okay. What are we on to now? 7?
Good morning. My name is Nola Force, and I'm speaking to 2 areas today, starting with Area 7, which is the place of my residence. I live on Lower Yankee Hill, And I've been very involved the last several months in finding out what the people of Yankee Hill and Concal want to do with their vision of what happens in that area between now and 2030. And it's taken us a process, since I haven't had a lot of time at it, nor has anyone really been organized in that area. We now have the Golden Feather Community Alliance Group. It's a new group that started that's cleaning up the area physically with the help of the county and with the Paradise Park and Recreation Department to do different things around that particular area involving the pool site and Crane Park. And I've joined them to create a committee to try to come together with a consensus for a vision. And what the people in Concal and Yankee Hill would like is an extended study area involving some new commercial, and not necessarily an increase in density, but perhaps a look at a plan for conservation. I happen to live in the middle of a key deer migration area on Lower Yankee Hill, and we're making provisions, my neighbors and myself, for up to about 400 acres on how that area can be used to maintain the deer herds. I just wanted to bring to the Planning Commission's attention that there are people working in the unincorporated areas. They may need a little more time to give their input. They're trying to define what it is. And they've kind of moved from, I want rezoning on my property to match my neighbors, to what do we want our whole community to look like? And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak on that area? If not, we'll move on to 10. Mo, you're signed in.
Good morning. Some of you I have known for some time. A couple of the others, you're new faces to me. So let me just quickly tell you a little bit about my background. I am a developer. I've been in the county now for over 60 years. We've done larger projects, California Park, Forest Avenue Commercial Zone in Paradise, the Clark and Wagstaff Shopping Center, et cetera, et cetera. So we are very involved and have been very involved for 40 or so years in the development business. And we now have attempted to take on the task of putting a project together called Tuscan Ridge Golf Course. And as most of you know, having read some 2,000 pages, it's a little complicated and certainly challenging. But fortunately, they have analyzed the process and given us a study area 10 sort of guideline on page 223 of your book. In that study area, there's roughly 2,000 acres. 1,965 is what it says here. And there are 3 alternatives that they have used for that 2,000 acres. One of those is leave it as it is for the most part, but include roughly 20 new homes. Another alternative would be to, on about 1,000 acres, add about 100 new homes. And alternative 3, 30 acres of residential development on a variety of densities adjacent to the golf course, allowing up to 200 homes. So all 3 options have some homes, but they're different amounts. In that particular area, it is very difficult to see how it could be utilized. And could we put area 10 only up on?
This is alternative 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. As you can see, that is difficult to see, but turning it this way because this would be the way the skyway is. This is the golf course.
And let me just interrupt. That map is on page 187 of your packet, if you'd wish to turn to it.
Okay. This is the golf course. It's 163 acres. That golf course presently has a use permit and is utilized as a golf course. And in the use permit allows for a clubhouse, a golf facility, and supplemental elements of the needs of the golf course. The housing element, number of housing units that we are proposing in our plan is 163 units, all on a clustered basis within about a 35-acre parcel, which is within the golf course itself. So roughly 80% of the land is for golf course and will remain for golf course and not changed. The small portion in the middle, and I passed out a booklet last time. Does anyone have that, or do I need to pass out a new one?
Did you bring enough, Mo, for...
There should be a booklet, Mo, that you distributed to us in the packet.
Okay.
That would be 185, page 185. Unless you've updated it since then.
No. I don't know. May I look at the last page and see if it gives the total acreage?
Okay, so this one exhibit that you have here has been updated since.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's our page what?
It's our page 228.
In the criteria as set forth, it's set forth with the alternatives on a very broad scale basis, which makes it very difficult to analyze any individual parcel or any individual acreage owned by a specific owner. The criteria set forth in Area 10 and the first three alternatives has a number of elements within it, such as the economic element, market viability, fiscal impacts, public services, et cetera, et cetera. This booklet addresses each one of those elements based upon the specific project and not on an area-wide basis. If you'll notice on the topo map, and here is the 10 study area, you will see there's an awful lot of red here. That red area is 30% grade or more, meaning that it's almost impossible to get a permit on any land in which there's a 30% slope or higher. So there are a lot of canyons and a lot of areas in which the slope is very high. Most of the area for development is along the Skyway, and that stops at about 2/3 of the way up here. From here to here to here, very little could be developed. So there's only a very small area on the Skyway that really is topographically capable of being developed. The elements in which are addressed on a perspective of the full 2,000 acres have been addressed on an individual basis in this booklet. We didn't try to give it a grade as most of the other areas did, because frankly we weren't sure how to do that. We weren't sure of the criteria and what all went into the original criteria, but we attempted to address it in a way that you could look at it and see that it was different for the most part than the criteria used for the full 2,000 acres. So the project itself represents approximately, well, actually we're proposing 163 units, and that, if you will turn to the back page of the booklet, shows the actual layout of the golf course. This page here. As I mentioned, this is a present use. We are not asking and don't intend to change anything on the golf course. The golf course will remain as it is. What we intend to do is put together a project which is more of a resort type project in which the housing would be clustered in the red area, and the amenities for the entire project would be the clubhouse and the rest of the elements within the golf course, such as fitness center, a restaurant, a lounge, swimming pools, etc. So it's a lifestyle built around the recreation, in which there would be a convenience store, there would be the pro shop, there would be a lounge, there would be lockers, etc. And within the project itself, the internal circulation would be in the golf carts to a great degree. So it's more, if you think of it as a resort setting where you would go to a golf course or to an area of recreation in which it's all clustered around a lifestyle or a lot of activity. There'd be a concierge service, there'd be a planning social director, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the type of project that we would see that producing for the community. Now, one might ask, how can we actually do such a project on such a small acreage? Well, because we're leaving 80% open, and we'll use a lot of that space for walking paths and which is also the cart paths, along with people playing, so we can cluster it and get a high density in that particular area. I won't go through each one of them, but let me just from the economic point of view, obviously there's an economic element to that as it relates to the public play and to the housing project, and that would bring dollars into the community. And the golf course, as far as it being a part of the community, it plays a large role in bringing in groups which come in for a business meeting, et cetera, and sometimes that they will set up within that a program for recreation while they're here and they're not in a meeting, and we cater to that. We also have large groups of people that come in for the tournaments. Excuse me. Thank you, Fernando. So it really has a social place within the community. On public services and emergency services, you'll see in that picture there is a fire in that picture. That's because there was a fire across the street right down next to the houses, and the fire department was using and staged their fire operation on our golf course and took the water out of our ponds and saved the houses at Rocky Bluffs. So they are a strong advocate, and I believe have written a letter accordingly that we will share with you. Within the school districts, they addressed it, the consultants addressed it, and there will be about 100 new students, and we agree that that's probably it, and there's adequate classrooms and sizes of classrooms in the Paradise District to take care of that. In the water supply, we have a well that actually produces something around 500,000 gallons a day. We use about 500,000 gallons a day on the golf course. It may be more than that. We have only gotten up to about that range, and it has taken care of it in good shape. The water that would be used for the houses is simply used in the houses and then used on the golf course as additional water. So we have a system where the 160 houses will use no more water than presently being used, because we will pump it through the houses, then back onto the golf course. So it's a very effective way of not making additional demand on water and utilizing the full water for other resources. We have also had a very preliminary discussion with the town of Paradise about them looking at bringing a pipe, force main pipe, down to our golf course to use some of their gray water. As far as groundwater recharge, obviously with over 100 acres of grass, we have very little runoff. So it serves as a good recharge area. And we don't overwater it, because then there would be runoff, but we're very careful with the water because it's also very expensive to extract that much water out of the ground at 700 feet. Wastewater, we would be building a wastewater sewage treatment plant in which it would meet all of the water quality control requirements. And in today's real world, there are some very strong programs, as now defined by the state, that are approved and very effective. Bicycle circulation. There's a lot of talk among many people about a pathway from Chico to Paradise. We conclude that that is a good idea and would be willing, as long as the rest of the property owners along the Skyway, we agree that we would deed a pathway along the property line of our property. Transit service. The bus goes up and down 4, 5, 6 times a day. I'm not sure how many times. So it easily could stop for the people at Tuscan Ridge. The airport zone, we're not in that. Potential loss of ag land. There would be no potential loss of ag land. It's already a golf course. And, of course, it is green 365 days a year. So, except we won't put any cattle on it. I hope not. Biological resources. The golf course had a biological research study done, and all of the mitigations were taken care of in the year 2000, 99-2000. And we don't find that there would be anything in that biological research that hadn't already been mitigated. It's vacant land. It's all clear. There's virtually no trees, and presently is in the middle of the golf course and is utilized as our equipment storage area and driving range. Fire hazards. There really is no fire hazard there because we're a green belt. We have about 1.5 miles of frontage, and that serves as a fire break from the skyway for the remaining property. Cultural resources. There again, there was a survey in 2000, and those have been mitigated at this time. Recreation element. Obviously, in the general plan, and all general plans have to address recreation. CEQA requires that, and it has been addressed in the past, and obviously will be addressed in this general plan. And I quote out of that recreation is as much of an industry in which Butte County economy could depend as much as agriculture or other manufacturing. The general plan open space element also states that the county should financially or politically assist in the development of recreational facilities commonly used by people in the city or district. The county should encourage development suitable private commercial outdoor recreation activities. So we would ask that you do encourage us to continue on with the recreational element. There have been some discussion of scenic highway, and if you will note on the back page, we have already set back from the skyway, again turning back to this particular picture, you will see that we are further back than required by the guidelines of a scenic highway. We have a tree-lined area next to the highway, which exists for the most part. Then we would have a green belt, which are the fairways. Then we would have another tree-lined area next to the houses, and we need that for protection of the houses, and that is normally what is done in a golf course, is trees are planted so the golf balls don't hit the houses. You will note in that, just with your eye, that we're about 1/3 of the property length has the houses. 2/3 of the property has absolutely no disturbance whatsoever from a view point of view. It's roughly utilizing the golf course as it is and remaining as it is, roughly 80%, 79%, or 128 acres remains as is. 21%, or roughly 35 acres, on a PD basis, which would be in effect about 1 unit per acre if you look at the full acreage. But we're only going to use the 35 acres for that our particular project. So we've tried to address each of these elements as it relates specifically to the guidelines that were used in the overall, because it doesn't really fit on a particular parcel when you shrink it down to say, all right, what is there and what's it used for now, and what are the elements that we need to look for as they apply in the overall basis. So we would ask that you approve. Actually, I'm not sure what we approved, and perhaps I can have staff help me. We approved, when I say we, the CAC approved I believe, Plan 1 with either 50 or 165 units. And then it was brought up again in a hurried up meeting that just before the last time we met with you. And in that particular meeting, there was a 10-10 vote of 165 or no houses. So CHC, I would have to say at that particular meeting, it was a daytime meeting, whereas all the rest of them were nighttime meetings, and some of the people that had voted for it before were unable to attend the daytime meeting, so we lost a couple of votes. But I believe in general the sentiment was in favor of the 165 units that we're talking about. So I would ask that you approve in this respect Area 10 with the 165 units as we have outlined in our study. Do we have some questions?
Well, I have one that's a general question throughout the day, and I think staff or whoever, but as we go through these proposals, and if we consider that study area with that proposal in mind, doesn't mean necessarily that we're giving approval to the proposed project as it's presented, are we?
No.
I mean, and I want that understood.
I only wish, Naya. We will be back.
I understand, but I mean, I want the people who come forward.
We don't approve anything. It's our recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, but we're not even necessarily recommending that proposal as it goes forward. Am I correct?
As I understand it, all this does is puts this into the general plan, and that general plan element then is compatible with what we're trying to do.
Right.
But we have to come back with the subdivision itself and go through the full process of CEQA.
What if we wanted
zoning, or
what if we wanted to approve the concept of the Tuscan Ridge concept, but we really don't necessarily want to approve a single-family zoning? I'm sorry, we don't really want to blanket that area with a particular zone. How would? I guess if I was to say I favored this proposal, I would be looking at the fact that there is a golf course there already. That whole concept, which is not to say I want to blanket the area with single-family. It would be more of a, what do we call those zones that we sort of put them together? Like a PUD. PUD
well, that's
concept.
What this is, actually.
Well,
this
it's
is,
not. Well, I just want to make sure that if I was to go in this direction, I would probably be recognizing something that was there rather than trying to say that I want to zone this area for one thing or another. Do you see?
Right, and that's what the Citizens Advisory Committee instructed. And if you want, I can go over those votes that were taken. 10 supported the developer's supported plan for the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course, not the entire study area, but for the focused area around the golf course. So that could be handled by zoning, or it could be handled by a specific plan. Number of different approaches.
In some instances, we've gotten comments like, if we consider this area, if it is done under the city rather than the county jurisdiction. And in this instance, we could say maybe if it is done with a PUD or specific plan.
Right, you could.
Type development.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm just trying to clear everybody understanding that.
That was a good question because
I think it's a point worth reiterating, if I could, that the your agreement or concurrence with or not with any of these study area proposals, especially when you have a property owner or developer who's actually giving a lot more detail than we really need at this level of planning. You're not approving their project. All that you're approving is the concept, or recommending that the board approve is the concept for them to submit an application for consideration for a future project. so that their project that they would bring in at a future day would be consistent with the new zoning, new general plan designation that we'll be developing, be creating.
Now, having said all this, between alternatives 1, 2, and 3, what would we pick?
Right, you're going to pick a blend. In this case, it depends, what you want to do. I think you have some more public comment to receive.
Right, but using this as an example.
Right. Is this alternative 4? Is that what this basically is, or is this?
Well, no. They didn't really specify an alternative. They split on 10 supporting no dwelling units at all for this whole entire study area. And then, yes, the last vote is the final vote taken by the Citizens Advisory Committee, and it represents their vote. And then 10 supported the developer's supported plan for Tuscan Ridge Golf Course for 165 dwelling units. So they didn't really specify an alternative. That is their alternative, basically specified by what their action was.
I think they basically punted.
Right, but their original vote was what? I'm trying to decide.
Their original vote would be in the meeting summary for April 10th. Yes.
Originally, 9 supported alternative 1 in the entire study area, which is actually the remainder. I want to just clarify that the current CAC preferred land use, the current preferred CAC land use does show alternative 1 in the remainder of this study area. This was our original alternative 1, and I'll talk more about the rest of the study area when we go through each one of them. But originally, for the golf course area, which is shown as blank on this map, 9 supported would not allow any new housing at the golf course. 6 voted to allow 165 units as contained in the developer proposal, and 6 supported. 6 thought that was a little bit too many.
What
but
was
they
that last one? 6 supported
165 units.
Well, the last after that.
Let me just start over.
Okay.
9 supported not allowing any housing at the golf course. 6 supported allowing 165 units at the golf course, and 6 supported allowing 50 new units at the golf course. So one way to look at that is that 9 people supported
10.
Right.
And then when we got to the final meeting on May 8th, because the 50 was just sort of something that David made up at the meeting. And the idea was really the question really was, should there be housing units or not? So that was how we reframed the question on May 8th, and the CAC then evenly split 10-10 for the members that were there. And so they really didn't come to a conclusion.
There really is no proposal on your part to have something in between of some housing, but not that many.
Right, and then it takes really about 300 members to make the project work as a public, and I'll keep it as the public. And we would have non-ownership members, public members of about 150, and then it'd be 150 homeowner members, which gives us enough to keep it as a viable business. And so we need that. That also kind of fits with 1 unit per acre, which is pretty low density, in 163 acres and 163 units. So that's the reason we made the 163, is so that it would come out 1 unit to acre. I don't know how the 165 got in there, but that works.
Mr. West, when you first came to the Planning Commission with the golf course and the clubhouse and whatnot, I remember I commended you on what you'd done with the golf courses. You know, as a scenic highway, when you drive up from Paradise to Chico, and I'm a Paradise resident, when you drive up from Chico to Paradise, I mean, it's just looks wonderful. It looked wonderful then. It was 2 years ago. I was there 3 years ago. That's before you came into the picture, and I haven't been back to the golf course since, but it looks even better than it did, then, and I just commend you for it. I wish there were more developers that wanting to do this type of project here in Butte County. Now, however, I know that this takes a tremendous amount of economic sustainability, which you haven't had up to this point. You've been investing with some, over $500,000 in just maintenance for the last 2 years. So if this wasn't, the housing development wasn't allowed, what would happen to the golf course?
Well, ultimately, I guess we would probably have to close it because it doesn't work as a business without the housing.
Right.
Okay. And I'd rather not even say that, because you might say, well, you won't walk away from $1 million piece of property. Well, if it doesn't work, there is a point in which you don't keep putting money in.
Right.
And so we would probably have to close it, or possibly turn it into a private club of some kind. We don't know, but we would like to keep it public. We would like to do a recreational type development there that would be a nice place to live, a lot of play, not much work.
Right.
And we think that we can be very helpful in creating a beautiful scenic area for people to look at up and down. And we would hope that other neighbors along the way, even though there's limited land that can be developed along the way, would do the same kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. See, there's been a buzz talk about sustainable, projects in the last, year, and I know that your project needs the housing there in order to be sustainable and maintain, what you've done so far. And so I may not be here next year or the next, but I just want to, let the commission know that, just let my voice be heard, that I think it's a good project, and I would like to, see it continue and develop and be a source of revenue for the county, and or if it ever gets annexed by the town of Paradise also. And like I said, I may not be here later, but at this point in time, I know I've dedicated lots of studying to projects in Butte County, and this is one of the better ones, so I commend you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo.
Thank you.
In the interest of time here, since we've taken up over 30 minutes with our first speaker here, obviously we don't have time to listen to everybody who supports it. I do have 9 more cards that apparently support it. The only one that I heard that does not support it is Michael McLaughlin. And you are?
Good afternoon or morning. My name's Carol Perkins. I'm here to speak on Area 10. I have my notes here. Who would like copies of them? Sorry, my printer didn't work today, so I'll have 2 more copies.
I'd like copies.
We'll share.
Well, here, give them.
Yeah. So we can share one here. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. I am a concerned citizen in the Durham area. I am on the Durham Mutual Water Company's board. I am also the Durham-Dayton Water Advisory Committee representative. I've lived in the Durham area for 16 years, and I wanted to speak today because approximately 8 to 9 of the study areas directly impact the Durham and the Durham area and the agricultural areas around Durham. And perusing through the study areas and focusing only on water, because water is my interest, I found a lot of inconsistencies. Some of which I've noted here. Most of them, again, are duplicated because we're talking, one area that's very similar in many ways. Basically, I have a few comments, and I need to leave because I've got an appointment with my 9-year-old son. A recent study by the American Farmland Trust found that in Dunn, Wisconsin, the city government was spending $1.06 in services for every tax dollar they received. And that was done in a study looking at, shifting agricultural land to developed urban space. I wanted to just state real briefly that the study areas don't look at they don't look at recharge. They don't look at runoff. They don't look at how we can better utilize conservation. Mo brought up some great ideas, and it's unfortunate that our general plan study doesn't look at these, these sustainable policies. Where it's pretty baffling. I wanted to state that Cal Water indicated in a meeting a couple months ago that the average water use in the household area. Average water use per household in the Chico area is 300 gallons per day, plus an additional 1,300 gallons for outdoor use. The California Water Code indicates that using potable domestic water for non-potable uses, including cemeteries, golf courses, parks, industrial, and residential irrigation, is an unreasonable use of potable water. So currently, I know there are no other ways of irrigating the golf course up on the Skyway, but that's an unreasonable use of water. As far as recharge is concerned, that water may infiltrate 10, 40 inches, but then it's hitting a very resistant, I don't want to say impermeable, because there is no such thing as impermeable rock, but it hits a very resistant unit of the Tuscan Formation and runs off. And that is probably why we have so much flooding year after year in the Durham area, because that slope that the Tuscan Ridge golf course is on comes right into the Durham area. It's been reported that in the 40s, they could not bury people in the Durham cemetery during the winter months because there was so much water. The water table, was so high. So basically, if you look at a geologic map, you'll see that that unit comes down through to 99 and then finally goes below ground, and all that water comes down into the Durham area. And as a member of Durham Mutual Water Company, we deal with flooding day in and day out, during the winter months. And I want to read one thing from April Grossberger. She's not here today, but she did put this very detailed review together, and I believe you'll be getting a copy of it, but I wanted to read this section on water. The alternatives narrative gives an oversimplified explanation and grading criterion for a very complex issue. To suggest study area 10, alternatives 1, 2, and 3 can be included in the Paradise Irrigation District water supply through simple annexation is short-sighted and irresponsible. More than 700,000 gallons of water are currently lost every day from the DID or PID's infrastructure. Approximately 15 to 16% of that water output from the PID is lost due to roughly 75 miles of old, leaky steel water mains currently running under Paradise that need to be replaced at a cost of approximately $500,000 per mile. To fix the problem in the PID's current service area alone, it will cost $37.5 million. In addition, due to the inadequate infrastructure, the area known as the gateway to the town of Paradise has an increased vulnerability to fire. Available water sources near Russell Drive and Vista Village are only capable of providing water flows at 250 to 300 gallons of water per minute for fire suppression. The national standard to effectively suppress a fire is a minimum of 1,000 gallons per minute. She also indicates here that the elimination of 1,000 acres of agriculture will be necessary to facilitate alternative 3. This in turn leads to a drastic decrease of open space in the confined area. So that point gets back to my case of the $1.06 per every dollar earned. And I spoke with a friend who just put in, they had to deepen their well in Durham. In Durham, I just want to remind everyone that 86% of Butte County citizens are totally dependent on groundwater. My friend just had to lower their well in Durham because we are in a declining groundwater level situation. I don't know if it's ongoing or if it's just indicative of weather and overpumping and overdraft, but it cost her the estimate for lowering that well. She was fortunate because she was able to lower that well, which is not a typical occurrence. But anyway, the cost of lowering that well was $7,800. It required a new pump because she's pumping from a deeper depth, and it required new electricity because of the pump. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mike McLaughlin. By the way, before I go further, I think you have copies of April Grossberger's study of Study Area 10. I know she sent it to you, so it may be in your file someplace. As I said, my name is Mike McLaughlin. I would like to read the following comments and questions on behalf of Barbara Vamis and the Butte Environmental Council's 800 members. This comprises about 1.5 pages, Mr. Chairman, and at the conclusion of which I'd like to make a couple of just quick comments on Study Area 10 myself. Dear Butte County Planning Commission, why do we again tolerate expensive, counterproductive general plan processes to create the illusion of planning transparency and inclusion? The county spent approximately $400,000 on a general plan update in the early 1990s and then aborted it. Today, vested interests facilitated by Butte County staff and its consultants are playing a pivotal role in continuing an antiquated planning model that seeks private profit at public cost. Climate change, water insecurity, broken local, state, and federal budgets, constrained land, escalating oil prices and diminishing supply, and growing food instability cry out for attention. But ostrich-like effort is leading the general plan update in Butte County. Below are just a few examples of the problems, some suggested solutions, and Beck's planning principles. The process is driving the results. Specific land uses should never have been pursued before policy and constraints are established. Constraints on land use have not been provided in a form that would educate the Citizens Advisory Committee and public, such as maps, with all the constraints identified. The expertise of the Citizens Advisory Committee is not being utilized. CAC members have or might have serious conflicts of interest in the outcome, yet votes on land use are majority rule and not consensus, despite the fact that 1/3 to 1/2 of the members have abandoned the meetings. The consultants and staff govern the process instead of the CAC by consensus. Reviewing growth areas, and let's be honest with the language, they are growth areas, by fielding offers from developers is contrary to the best interest of the county and the cities and the towns. Allowing developers and consultants to advocate for projects during a planning process demonstrates a major bias. In contrast to the communication received and presented by developers, the input from public and local experts is not valued, nor is there a mechanism to weigh the value of the comments. Possible solutions: evaluate the current process, halt the discussion of growth areas, move to a CAC governed by itself with a consensus process, prepare a comprehensive constraints map of the entire county, formulate policy, provide members of the public with more than 60 seconds, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, that is an exception today, to speak publicly and provide a process in which staff or consultants respond, tabulate, and weigh the significance of the communication from all parties, and, of course, solicit more expert input. Now, very briefly, in conclusion, planning principles of BEC, Butte Environmental Council. BEC maintains that the health and well-being of the public human population is intrinsically tied to the variety and vitality of the agricultural and natural lands in this region. BEC supports strengthening existing communities and neighborhoods through policies that redirect public and private investment away from sprawl development and toward more compact urban form. BEC envisions new development inside spheres of influence boundaries so land is used efficiently, public infrastructure is affordable and available, agricultural lands of all kinds are preserved, natural resources are maintained or enhanced, air and water quality are improved, and a strong alternative transportation fabric is facilitated. BEC advocates for economic vitality through the protection of Butte County's groundwater, surface water, recreational opportunities, wildlands, and all agricultural lands. If the county would like to engage the interested and expert members of the public in the future, please feel free to call on us. Now, a couple of quick comments concerning the study area 10. I think the one thing that has been uppermost in my mind through the last year and a half of studying this is that study area 10 appears to me to be an example, a classic example of leapfrog development. And I think in terms of planning, that is sort of anathema. It's something that should not be allowed because ultimately, of course, it results in sprawl time after time after time. The second, and I am grateful to Mo West for having included in his comments something about the scenic skyway. Just to sort of alert you that residents of Paradise, and I live there, are now working on a proposed element for the general plan that will specify greater constraints on the existing Skyway Scenic Highway. We will be looking at such factors not only as setbacks, but elevation heights and other things that will provide us and future generations the ability to enjoy the corridor and the scenic viewshed of the Skyway. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My comments will just be really quick. My name is Travis Brown. Yes. Yeah, I have a yellow card up there. His name's Travis Brown. I'm the men's golf coach at Chico State. And I just wanted to basically state that I am definitely in favor of the improvement and the growth of Project 10. I think that what Mr. West and his staff provide our men's and women's golf programs, it's the only golf facility in all of Chico that lets us do what we do there. And I know that they support a lot of the high school programs as well. And with the cutbacks that are happening and possibly dropping high school golf in the area, I'd say that the development on the golf piece, I know we're talking about homes here, but the golf piece, we're allowed to practice, we're allowed to play. There's no other grass facility in all of Chico that lets us do that. So it's very important to the golf piece with high school and college golf in the area to get this plan going. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Travis.
Hello again, I'm Robin Huffman, and I'm speaking as one member of the Paradise Town Council today. I've got a number of comments, and they're scribbled as usual in little notes, very small, so hopefully it'll be coherent as I go through them. First of all, let me address the intention of the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course. as it was proposed, as it was approved. It was proposed and approved as a golf course with no houses. In fact, I believe that it's part of the approval that it's specifically not approved for houses. And so, what was the intention? Was it sustainable as a golf course from the beginning? Who knows? If it's, I'm very happy to hear from Mo West that this is planned as a resort that's for the community. But what I'm seeing is large piles of rocks and huge wrought iron gate, huge. And it doesn't look like there's a sense of community, but rather a sense of, an eventual private resort being planned. But I'm glad to hear, the expressed intention is for community development. I'm particularly happy to hear about the bike lane being deeded over. That's fabulous, and I hope that if this project is approved with houses, that there will in fact be a deed of bike lane. And I hope that, in fact, I'd love it to be two, one in front and one behind. The most beautiful area and possibly the best area for that bike lane would be behind where the old railroad grade went. You can see it's kind of the curvy area there, away from the Skyway. And that's one of the proposals in the study that was done last year as to where exactly this bike lane should go between Paradise and Chico. It's a wonderful thing. It would be a wonderful community asset to have that accomplished. To hear so many specifics like this about a project seems a little out of place in a general plan process. I'd have to agree with that we need to be talking about policy, and yet we need to balance that with specific projects as well, so we hear a lot. In looking for where to develop, we should be looking for solutions, and some of the process does seem a little bit arbitrary. You're like, well, how about 50 houses? Would you go for 50? And well, where are these numbers coming from? Going back to Area 5 in Magalia, that was probably the most arbitrary thing that I've heard through this whole process. And I've been to most of the general plan meetings. And really, I would like to see a report of where these 400 homes would go, exactly what would be proposed. So far, I haven't seen a rework because there was some kind of mistake made as far as how many homes could be built for scenario 1, 2, or 3, and there were over 3,000. What was that for alternative 1?
Oh, not homes. They were 5,300
dwelling units.
If we kept things the way they were going.
Right, and so the question that was posed earlier today, well, how many homes could be built with the current zoning? Even if we did single-family developments, not subdivisions, just home by home, how many could be built right now? So some of these things should be clarified, and particularly for Area 5, the amount of time that was spent on Area 5 was so brief. We have one representative for Magalia on the CAC, and she's been to, I don't know, maybe 3 meetings total. She wasn't at the last CAC meeting. She did come to the one in Paradise. But even in the one meeting in Paradise, it was 5 minutes, maybe 10, that Magalia was discussed. At the Paradise Town Council meeting, it was less than that Magalia was discussed at all.
Do you have any preferred alternative for that area of Magalia?
Well,
Planning Commissioner?
Let me get to that.
Okay.
As far as just the larger picture, concentrated growth, my question when Dan Breeden came to the council about concentrated growth is how can you have a concentrated growth alternative in an area that's disconnected to a city, disconnected to an established urban area? it seems to me that some of these study areas would say concentrated growth is not an appropriate, there just is no alternative that would match the description for concentrated growth for an area that's disconnected and doesn't have the potential to be a fully developed city with a fire station, a police station, the services that are needed. I'm wondering when we're going to have the information from the HCP, NCCP, or the Regional Conservation Plan. When will that information be incorporated into these decision-making process? A lot of that information is already available, but I'm not seeing it here. What I'd like to see is a little more sophistication with layers of what the constraints are that are known. And what we have here is just this white with a color on top. And we know there's this topography, and we know there's a lot more information, but decisions are being made on the number of housing units without the full picture of information. So I'd like to see a little more sophistication before we make decisions. Connectivity of water is also important. On Area 10, not only do we not fully understand the connectivity to Durham, but also maybe we don't fully understand the connectivity to Paradise. I've heard reports that since the golf course has been using their well, that large oak trees have died in southern Paradise. It's lowering the water table, however that is on the ridge. And we don't know how the water is connected underneath. But when you're taking water with wells, and wells are notoriously unreliable on the ridge, it's going to have a long-term effect, and even short-term. So on the Paradise Town Council, I abstained from voting. I said we just don't have enough information, and we're not spending enough time on each study area. And so I would encourage you to do a tentative selection of alternatives. And that's my answer to you, I guess, is that I couldn't make a decision because I didn't have enough information from Magalia to really say what would be the correct number of housing units. So please consider all of the input in detail. Our Planning Commission spent quite a bit of time looking at the study areas around Paradise. And the presentation given you today was a very, very general overview. So if you have the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting for Paradise, I hope, do you know if you have those?
We have the final voting outcomes from that
Maybe your
meeting.
minutes, too.
And a staff report that went to your council.
I believe the recommendation was, and it was a little confusing how it was presented at our council too, but the recommendation for the housing in Area 10 was that it go along Neal Road. I believe that was their idea. I haven't heard impact on traffic. I mean, Skyway is already very dangerous. So I'm going to submit something to you from April Grossberger, one of our planning commissioners, one of our many fine planning commissioners. And I want to read just a short section of this today, just as an example of, you've got this large document, but it is not entirely accurate. So with public services for Area 10, the text that you've been given reads, there are no fire stations within the boundaries of Study Area 10. The closest fire station is the City of Chico Fire Station 26, which is located less than a mile away. This is what you've got from the consultants, a mile away from the golf course. Well, City of Chico Fire Station number 26 does not exist. The City of Chico Fire Station 4 is located at Notre Dame and Foster in Chico and is approximately 5.5 miles away from the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course. Cal Fire Station 26 is located at Honey Run and Butte Creek Canyon, about 8.5 miles away. A fire engine responding from Station 26 will have to travel a narrow two-lane unshouldered road with blind curves and speed limits of 25 miles an hour for at least half the distance. The only way Station 26 maps out as being less than a mile away from Study Area 10 is if you do a canyon flyover using Google Earth. The distance from Cal Fire Station 26 to the entrance of Tuscan Ridge Golf Course is approximately 0.97 miles. And so in your report, that's apparently how they got that 1 mile distance. And so, without taking more time, I would encourage you to, when you get a copy of this, to please consider it.
I think we got that last time we discussed this.
I think this is new information that hasn't been submitted.
Okay, that may be part of it, but I know that letter we got that word for word.
Okay, well, good. Then you've already seriously considered it. Finally, study area 14, whatever happens in that area is going to affect Paradise the most. We're the ones that commute on the Skyway, and so please take that into consideration. I know Chico may want that to be their study area, but they're not affected. We are. Thank you.
If anybody has anything new, we would be happy to hear it, but we're getting to where we're starting to repeat an awful lot of what we have already heard.
Mr. Chairman, I have a letter from Mr. Jim Stevens, who he wanted this letter submitted into the record for Area 10. So I'm just advising you of that, and we will make copies for the planning commissioners.
You are?
I'm Sandy Allen, and I'm here in support of the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course. The support that Tuscan Ridge Golf Course and their staff have provided to the Orville High School golf program has just been wonderful. Not only do they provide a facility for our young athletes to participate and practice, but they have shown great interest in developing the junior golfer programs. Tuscan Ridge this year was the site of the Division I playoffs for the 2000 golf season. With golf continuing to grow in popularity, it is difficult for high school golf coaches to find adequate practice facilities. Even though our home course is really Table Mountain Golf Course, we must share this facility with 3 other high schools, plus the general public. We were very limited in the time that we were allowed to be at Table Mountain. In order to prepare a team for competition, we were at the mercy of traveling to 3 different courses each week. It is without doubt that Tuscan Ridge was always willing to have us and to help us out whenever possible. And the athletes always did feel welcomed at Tuscan Ridge. I cannot imagine what we would have done without their support. I know it takes a great deal of funds to keep a golf course up and running, and the more development and support that can be generated to keep a fine course operating is in great need. I do hope you would give your support in the development of new housing at the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course. And I'd just like to thank you for allowing me to come and speak on this matter. Pardon me? I don't know.
I have her card here. Well, we're sure getting an awful lot of our Planning Commission reviewing and recommendations to the board done.
You're the chairman.
That's true. You're going to read that whole thing?
No. I will be brief. This is just our most recent copy of our petition. My name is Jay Berkowitz, General Manager of Tuscan Ridge. We're up to nearly 1,000 signatures on the petition, and the only thing I was going to add is that in here I just have some letters of support, one of which is from the Butte County Fire Chief, discussing how much they've used the golf course and fighting fires in the areas and how much they'd like to see us stay for that. So he just says here, the golf course pond is a convenient dipping site for our helicopters, providing quick and efficient turnaround time for water drops on wildfires in the Chico Forest Ranch and Paradise areas, with the completion of a second pond on their property, which would happen with the development. The Tuscan Ridge Golf Course will be able to accommodate multiple helicopters dipping water simultaneously, thereby increasing water delivery to wildfires exponentially. In addition to being a convenient water dipping site, the driving range portion of the course has been utilized as what we refer to as a helispot. The driving course is dust-free and provides a safe environment for loading crews or refueling, again, cutting down the time our rotary wing air support is away from the fire. The personnel at Tuscan Ridge have been extremely supportive during emergencies, providing a strategic location for support of the wildfires that annually threaten the area. Henry Brackus, County Fire Chief. So I have copies of the letters and our recent petition for you and the staff. Thank you.
Could I ask a question about the petition?
Sure.
Is it in support of the golf course or of the houses?
We have our map of the golf course project outlined.
With the houses?
With the houses.
With 165 houses?
Correct. 163. So that's what they're supporting.
Nina, I just need to, I was thinking about the same thing you were, but you know, if somebody or anybody that's in support of the golf course but not taking the potential development that is needed to sustain it, you know, I think if they want the golf course and they want it to remain long-term, they're going to have to look at the economic feasibility of that this has to be done in order to continue to have it as a community golf course and not a private golf course where the community is going to lose access to.
I just don't, we can talk about that, but let's wait, let's get all the public testimony. I'm not buying that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go next. I wasn't going to speak today. I really am here to learn all the time. But then there are some things that are astonishing. I'm Maria Phillips. I live in Chico. I was prompted specifically to speak because of the contrast between Nola Forrest, did you say your name is, and her presentation of what they want to do in Magalia. I don't know anything about the area even, and the presentation that Mr. Mo West. There's an incongruity that I'm sure is, you've already pointed to. It's a very specific plan. We've had so many speakers on the specific thing. And then the numbers were astonishing. At the first meeting, and the young lady here repeated it, 9 people voted for no houses on the Tuscan Ridge Golf Course, and 6 people for 165, and 6 for 50 units. That came to a total of 21 people, as far as I can see. At the next meeting, 10 and 10, 165, or no houses. That means that one less person voted that time, yet Mo West says that they lost a couple people because they couldn't go to a daytime meeting. Well, you know, a lot of the citizens, the concerned citizens that are watching the Citizens Advisory Committee, what we have realized is that most of the time there's more of us there than the Citizens Advisory Committee. I think there's supposed to be like 30 people there every time, but there's a huge absentee. The Citizens Advisory Committee is just not there a lot of the time. And by the way, I should be at work right now too, but I'm here, so I feel that these numbers in the end of how many people on the Citizens Advisory Committee is voting for what become meaningless, because not all of them are there anyway, and some of them can't or whatever, so they're insignificant. It's going to be up to you to decide. I think what I'm trying to say is that the process some of us have been saying from the beginning is wrong for this whole general plan agenda. It's too complicated, too early. I think if the Citizens Advisory Committee had been there really to formulate policies or to look at the larger pictures, like how much water we have, and set up some ideals in terms of what was possible where, I think everybody could be a lot more confident. What I happen to know is that there's more than just one petition going around. There's a lot of petitions going around because some of us citizens who are concerned are beginning to think about our own petition, just saying that we have lost confidence in the process. And Mr. Marin, I think it's funny that you say you may not be here next year, but you know what? We may not even have water next year. So that's what I wanted to say. And thank you for listening. And I don't know if you want to, I'll sign myself in really fast.
We may not have any gasoline next year.
It's true. We might not. And wouldn't that be a blessing of some kind? What would we do then?
At your horse and buggy. The pooper scooper.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, my name is Alan White. I am the mayor of the town of Paradise. I'm going to ask your indulgence. I want to briefly speak. The comments I have are going to apply to areas 10 through 13 specifically, and also areas 14, 15, and 20 much less, but they all affect the town of Paradise. They will be comments that are somewhat more brief, I think, than some of the others that have spoken. Growth needs, as were addressed at the beginning of this meeting, are defined by the Butte County Association of Governments for different regions of the county, the 5 incorporated cities and the unincorporated area. The town of Paradise is identified in the current plan as needing 3,427 new housing units. There are not 3,427 parcels available in the town of Paradise without housing units on them to put those units on. For the town of Paradise to meet those growth needs, our option would be annexation of land. As a mayor and a council member for almost 12 years, I am not willing to annex enough land to add those units. So the other options, I do still realize, though, that we will have some population growth, probably population growth in that range in and around the town of Paradise in the area defined as our basically as our region of interest, is our study area, primarily in the regions 10 through 13. Specifically addressing region 10, if you're driving down the Skyway looking to the west, or driving either direction on the Skyway looking to the west, you'll see a few single-family houses. I don't see how anyone thinks that positively impacts the viewshed. There was a proposal discussed today. There are a couple other proposals in the town of Paradise, one within the town limits, one in what is defined as study area 12, that are planned unit developments, clustered housing, clustered residential developments with large amounts of open space. I think there was a question earlier, what was it referred to as for the golf course, and that may be a planned unit development with a recreational overlay. I don't know how the county would define that. From my perspective, accepting the fact that we will have population growth in the county, accepting the fact that we probably don't want to lose a lot of ag land, which is the valley land, we don't want to lose a lot of forest land, we're left with about the 1,000 to 2,000 foot elevation level, which areas 10, 11, 12, and 13 all encompass. If we can protect those view sheds as well as possible and still allow residential development by clustering that development, it's my opinion that's the best way to go. Some of the people have mentioned the Nance Canyon area, which will be discussed in a subsequent meeting, the Hamlin Canyon area, and the area down around Butte College. Those are agricultural properties. Those, I would hope, can be protected as ag lands. But look at areas 10 through 13, and 11, 12, and 13, yes, we do have area 12, we have a study area, but it will certainly impact areas 11 and 13. But look at all 4 of those areas as prime areas to put planned unit developments where you can put residential in, where you can still protect the view sheds as much as possible, but allow residential, allow people a place to live, accepting the fact that I realize that great planning practices don't say to cluster your houses in pockets, but 200 or 300 houses here and there, I think is a lot better thing than I'd much rather see 63 houses on a 150-acre parcel clustered in one area than 150 houses on 150 single-acre lots. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience with today's process.
I'd like to ask you just real quickly, number 5, you got to talk. I mean, do you have any comments about 5?
Miguelia?
It kind of is Paradise, even.
It's a mess. It can't be fixed.
Can't be fixed.
We got to do with it what we can, but.
What would you do if it was in the town of Paradise right now? What would you do with 5?
I wouldn't have run for office.
I'm just curious.
If it was in the Wouldn't change any zoning to add additional housing units. Would change zoning to add additional business, commercial units, because additional commercial would reduce road trips, would reduce travel. Yeah, we'd have some more semis coming through town, but increase the business district, leave the residential the way it is. There's still, I mean, what people don't realize is there's still a whole lot of residential lots available up there.
Yes. I think, what did we figure, if we left it the way it was with the lots the way they're zoned, we'd have how many? I keep. There are 400? 400 lots up there. Just left things the way they are.
In Magalia and Paradise Pines. You've still got Koodlink, you've still got further up the hill,
going all the way
Toadtown, Lovelock, Sterling City.
Let me just clarify that point with, and that was an issue at the Citizens Advisory Committee. Our current general plan, as is status quo, is 3,800 new homes.
That's the scariest area in Paradise, right?
And what the Citizens Advisory Committee recommended was reducing that number to 400. So that's existing lots.
Reduce it down to 400.
Yeah.
The problem is you've got currently zoned properties that's not going to happen. Then you'll have an uprising. But good luck with the rest of this process. But I would strongly recommend looking at planned unit developments, looking at taking large parcels which exist in every one of these zones, every one of these study areas, 10 through 13. Do the zoning in a way that it makes it cost effective for the property owner to put in a planned unit development, protect as much of the land as you can, and still provide the residential units that the county needs.
Do you see 13 going into Paradise at some point?
Not without a very strong Melrose Benefited Assessment District and a lighting and landscaping district.
So you could potentially see that in the next 30 years going into...
Yeah. Some of the infrastructure would have to be pre-built or paid for, and that's a Melrose Benefit Assessment District. I'd want a
water issue too, yeah.
And police and fire.
Yeah.
And the challenge is, as a council member of Paradise, I accept the fact that I'm going to provide them police and fire anyway on an emergency basis. And that's again where I'd like a planned unit development, where at least I've got people living close together. It's easier to serve. A lot easier to serve 150 parcels in 30 acres than 150 residences on 150 acres. And probably going to have better roads so it doesn't tear up fire trucks, which cost a lot of money last I checked. Thank you.
Thank you very much for me that.
Okay, we're going to break for lunch now, and when we come back, we're not taking any more public input on these areas. We're going to have the Planning Commission to review the Citizens Advisory, so we will be running a little behind schedule, but we're going to get back on it. So we'll see you all at 1 o'clock that wants to be here.